Kanpai!
I've
already finished my drink.
It's because we took so long getting set up. Anyway, welcome everyone to Kanpai Cast, episode 113, where we're going to talk about urban fantasy, or bringing magic to the city. And we got a lot to talk about that. With that, we got a lot of shows lined up. But before we do any of that, we got some housekeeping. First bit of housekeeping. Zeno is not in his usual place. He's looking very, very dark and dapper these days. He's a mysterious man, just hiding in the shadows.
He's 2014 Warframe.
It's by no choice of my own. Literally, the only light in this entire room is right above my head, and of course, it's going to cast a shadow down. It looks horrible. I apologize, everyone. Hey, maybe next week or for the rest of my break, I'll do PNG Tuber or some shit like this.
Yeah, I was going to say we can't all have my even lighting and delightful color palette. Again, and it's fine. The important part is
androids.
The important part is that you'll still be bringing the ripe, delicious insights into the world. Thaylien, how are you doing as well? We might as well ask how you're doing since we got Thaylien. See now.
I'm angry at the government. I'm going to put some anarchy in the UK. After this.
Is this really wise to talk about on YouTube? Like publicly post?
He's got a Guy Fawkes. Guy Fawkes Day is already passed. You can't bring it back. I'm sorry.
Yes. No. However, the Kobe from Across the Spider-Verse still exists, and he is my current spirit animal.
Let's move on.
Right. So we've got a Discord. You can come there and hang out and chat and share memes, and we put some of those, if we've got a memes channel where you can post memes that we can't see, and then they get put on this show, and we react to them live for you. We have also, the link for that is in the description. We're also adding a new segment to the news, which if you've already watched the news, then it's going to be covering facts or rumors, because frankly Zeno watches a lot of Instagram and stuff, and he sees a lot of these people like trying to clickbait you with, this show is going to be canceled, and it's really boring and tiring going out and looking into these things, and so we've decided to do that for you. And so we're gonna include that in the news. And if you have any rumors that you run into, you can bring them to the Discord and share them there. Or you can put them in the description as well. But the best place to do it is at the Discord.
The big reason is that so it's common knowledge that Jujutsu Kaisen has been receiving a lot of spotlight treatment right now because of all the controversy that's going on over at Mappa. So a lot of Instagram influencers, if you want to call them, have basically reported, hey, Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2 is going to get cancelled, so on and so forth. And yeah, I was like, you know what, I'm sick to death of seeing multiple of these reports, and they've not been fact-checked. So, and I'm gonna be upfront and honest, right? So what I did was I paid... so no, I didn't pay. I built a GPT model on ChatGPT that literally just we give it a statement like No Game No Life is getting a season 2, and it will literally crawl the internet and actually determine whether or not it's fact or rumor.
And so far, it's been completely accurate. It's like we've double checked it, and it has been accurate. So
it comes with citations and everything, which is just brilliant. Anyway, should we move on?
This is off the bat of the ChatGPT people getting caught out because news sites were actually using ChatGPT to go find rumors and things and see if they could confirm them, so they get scoops before everybody else.
This
resulted.
This was the thing, right? Yeah. It wasn't a case of these companies using the AI to fact check them. It was these companies using the AI to generate the articles.
Yes, exactly.
And not fact check them.
That's what I'm getting at. So they didn't have a fact checking system in there. So they accidentally started doing a whole slew of news articles about a series coming out, and it was based off something completely stupid like Battletoads, the anime.
so it's really interesting how there's a huge controversy around this because the Warcraft Reddit had discovered that there was a bunch of game journalist websites that were basically regurgitating whatever the Reddit was talking about, and they decided to effectively set up a trap for it. And it was talking about I think it was like some crazy like Guibo or something, and they basically injected this knowledge into the AI, and sure enough the AI just spat out a news article about World of Warcraft Guibo, and it's just like this. Yeah,
he released a new hero, like a new character, Guibo or something, takes the world by storm.
Yeah, and it's just like,
yes, I remember that. Oh,
yeah, it's just so. Yeah, we were determined to just fact check stuff, and it takes so long to fact check it our side. So we just came up with a faster approach to deal with it.
Yeah. Yep. But that's not this episode. That's in the news. This episode is about urban fantasy. So shall we? Which is we've got a little asset to help. Kind of like last week when we talked about the hero's journey?
Yeah.
We got a little asset to help that we can keep up during the show. So you can see it in the corner right here. So it's a little hard to read on our end. Shall I increase the
enhance?
Let's zoom in and enhance. So I don't agree with all of these. I don't think these all fit, and I think that's important. That's an important discussion to have too.
Sure.
So we got urban fantasies need to have fantasy tropes. They need to have storylines that contain the real life grit with the modern world with fantastical world building. And I think that one is probably true. Yeah. That one definitely kind of defines the genre.
Although not always grit, but definitely the real world itself in some way. Something that's recognizably the real world.
Yeah. They need to have an urban setting, although small-town urban fantasies do exist. Most take place in present-day major cities. I don't know how much I agree with that one.
I would say it's easier for more people to recognize a city setting as modern.
To be honest, though, I feel
fair.
it's more interesting when it's a city setting, right? It's like, you know, you'd think with such an industrious establishment that, you know, you wouldn't see anything as made up as, you know, the folklore stuff we see in urban fantasy. But I think it does tend to.
Or it's interesting. It's interesting seeing how they weave magic into their technology, like their modern technology stuff. Yeah. Speaking of magic, they do need to have magic. They need to have supernatural elements, sci-fi technologies, which I suppose if you get to a point where technology is indistinguishable from magic, then yeah, that does fit. Fairy tales and folk mythologies are all found throughout urban fantasy novels. That's very true.
In some way.
And here's another one that I don't think I agree with. A noir aesthetic. Urban fantasies lift genre conventions from noir and gritty police procedurals, and I don't think that's true. Do you guys think that's true?
I don't.
No, not all the time. I think that some do.
Sure, but that's like a secondary
but
thing.
not all.
That's definitely a secondary thing. I think that's, if you're doing a modern fantasy, you can make it a noir aesthetic, but it's not a requirement for being a modern fantasy.
Yeah. They need to have mythological creatures, so things like supernatural entities, not limited, including but not limited to undead zombies, vampires, werewolves, druids, demons, shapeshifters, and perhaps a mage or wizard. Well, if you're including mages and wizards as mythical creatures, which I don't think that I would, but if you are, then yes, sure, of course. You need to have some kind of magic user, but...
Yeah, although some people do point out that in Japan, a wizard or a mage is often just a guy that reaches 30 without losing his virginity. So.
Yeah, it's very true.
Anyway.
The protagonist needs to have a foot in both worlds, so the main character of an urban fantasy is typically savvy to the real-life ways of their urban environment, yet can also wield or exploit magical powers. I don't know that that's necessarily true either.
Yeah,
It does help.
I think that's a key to being an urban fantasy. I think that the protagonist there is aware of both worlds. Has either come from one or is intruding into one.
I do agree with this, but also, yeah, I mean, the come from one is a huge, you know, this is the origin that they came from, and yeah, that works really, really well.
Just wanted to have some pictures on in the background. And a young protagonist. The protagonist is, but this is a problem with a lot of fiction, right? There's a point. The reason a lot of fiction has a young protagonist is because that is the easiest way to have an everyman. Once you hit a certain age, you start to refine your character and your traits and everything, and so it becomes harder and harder to have an older everyman. And so, while this may be a trait of urban fantasies, I don't think it's exclusive, and I think it's not a defining characteristic per se.
Definitely not. For example, there is, just taking it out of anime as a thing with a noir aesthetic and going against a young protagonist. Would that be The Sixth Sense? There's a bit of an urban fantasy there.
Did you say The Sixth Sense?
Yeah, because it deals with ghosts and
ghosts and the supernatural in the modern day.
I thought you said with the whole anime setting. Sorry, never mind.
I said taking out of the anime setting.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's all a. You can do a modern fantasy with many of these other aesthetics, but like as I said, I don't agree that it always has to be a young protagonist. That's just a marketability thing.
Yeah. I feel like it's purely based on, you know, the who we can draw in as an audience. We want our audience to be able to relate,
identify.
To the
yes,
yeah. I mean, like,
also, go on, finish.
I mean, to me, I don't know if you guys ever watched. Again, we're talking Western stuff at the moment. Have you guys ever watched like the Dresden Files?
I couldn't get into that show, but yeah, no. I know. I'm aware of it.
I enjoyed the Dresden Files is basically this. It's like, you know, magical mixed with modern day New York, I think it is. It's dumb fun, right? It's nothing Super League special, but it is dumb fun. I preferred that much more than I preferred the likes of Harry Potter, right?
For me, it was Poltergeist: The Legacy, which was extremely loosely based on the Poltergeist movies, but was about a secret organization that went around taking care of all this supernatural stuff. And yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But there is also the thing to consider that a young protagonist is also somebody who could be learning.
Yeah.
It's much more difficult to teach an older character new things and have them adapt. But it can be, on occasion, hilarious.
I disagree. I don't know that I agree with that.
Well, that's just because we're old.
No, I mean, like, again, I think it's like you could teach any character anything as long as they're willing to learn, right? We just have the stigma that, if you're old, you
can't teach an old dog new tricks, but that's not necessarily true.
You know,
your cup is already full.
It is a stigma. It is a perception, and so having a younger person gives us more credulity, so more suspended disbelief that they would not know about these things. They would not be able to make the connections that an adult would, and wouldn't come with any of the preconceptions either. So, you know, it's more of a blank slate for the audience in that respect.
I suppose. Anyway,
whether that's true to life or not, that is the perception, and I will agree that is a thing that happens a lot in fiction.
Okay, so where do we want to take this from here?
But then you have something. So let's just dive right into it. You have something like wait, hang on, where's this week? You have something like Uncle from Another World, right? Where he is an old man, and he goes to this other world, and he does learn new skills. I think this is a great way of show that. I mean, they use it for comedic effect for the most part, but this is a great show where they have an urban fantasy that kind of breaks a lot of these conventions. It doesn't have the young protagonist.
Yes.
It doesn't have the gritty noir setting.
No. So it is great fun in that respect, but I think he was a lot younger when he went over. 17 years or so, isn't it, in the show?
Yeah. He was basically, I think
he was
he
like
was
20s.
No. He was like 16, 17 when he went, and now he's back.
He was
He's
still
like
playing
30s.
games.
That's fair enough.
Yeah,
that is fair enough.
But this is more. He went on a fantasy journey and has brought the fantasy back for an urban fantasy, which makes it kind of fun.
Yeah.
See, I feel that Uncle from Another World. This is one of the difficult grey areas because Uncle from Another World is very heavily a slice of life series, right? Absolutely nothing wrong with this, but barely does anything with his magic, right? The only real thing that he does with his magic is to relive his adventures to share with his nephew and the other girl I can't remember the affiliation of, but it's just like,
or disguise himself as an elf to play video games on YouTube.
True that. But do you know what I mean though? It feels like, whereas a lot of, I wouldn't want to say urban fantasy, it has this deep layer, and because I don't want to get into Jujutsu Kaisen, I'm actually going to click on the Ancient Magus Bride. So again, the Ancient Magus Bride, like, the worlds live in parallel. They touch upon this so damn often. You even see the real world on occasion, where it's just like, we've got a preacher who absolutely despises Elias. There we go. Absolutely despises Elias. It's really interesting seeing this mix of worlds, right? And seeing more of the whole magical side of it, because, well, that's what drew people to watch the show. Actually, that's the priest right there. So this feels a lot more urban fantasy to me than Uncle from Another World, and I really like it for this. Right, a good blend of the the realities, but one that I feel isn't particularly good on this list, which I honestly don't know how you guys put this list together in my absence, but is Kobayashi's Dragon Maid, right? Now, the reason I'm pushing back on Kobayashi's Dragon Maid is, like, dragons didn't exist in our world, or magic doesn't. Magic does kind of exist in our world. But the whole point is that it exists in the other world, and they kind of just sort of like travel to ours. It's a reverse isekai, right?
But
it's not like there's
you could argue that fantasy beings could travel from another world to this place, and that ability to travel here, in and of itself, creates an urban fantasy setting. Think of something like Gate, right? Gate, I would classify Gate, even though it's not in this list, which is surprising. I would classify Gate as an urban fantasy, because most of it happens in the other world. It is still a fantasy that it froze again. So we've had a little bit of a hiccup. Not quite sure exactly where we were, except that I think I was saying that you were disagreeing with my assessment that the transportation makes it an urban fantasy, I think.
Yeah, see, that's where I don't quite agree, because fictional people coming to the real world is just a reverse isekai. Even if they can use magic, it's not always the same effect, as it were, because the fantasy is coming from that world. not a thing that's part of our world and being used here. So, I mean, the one that I would liken this to is Isekai Elf, the Shutian Elf series, because that one has a fictional character isekai'd into our world, and it seems like an urban fantasy because it's in a city setting and it's a slice of life about a fictional or a fantasy character in the world, but it's not in the sense that it's just a character reacting to the things of our world. So
is this a problem? Is this a problem of scale? Would you say like, so if we're transporting just a couple of dragons in, not a problem. If we're transporting in a whole race of elves, like an entire race of elves, yes. and looking at how they react to the world and how the world reacts to them.
Yeah, in the world of Gate, for example, I think that if there is some like cross settling where people
cross settling, I don't think so, but
yes, so where actual people from the other world can emigrate to Japan, and people of Japan can fully emigrate to the other world. Once there's a social thing settled down and all the warring is over and the tanks killing dragons thing is done, so yes, there's diplomatic relations, but once it becomes some kind of cross thing where the fantasy people have to adapt to our world and vice versa, I think that's definitely becoming an urban fantasy.
So it's less to do with the elements and more to do with where the story focus is. Is that what I think? Would that be a fair assessment?
Yes.
Would you agree with that, Zeno?
I also feel that there's an element of more to do with cross-pollination than what Thaylien's proposing. There was a brilliant series where effectively it's got that whole noir vibe to it, where it's like policing contraband and the activities of effectively there's like a gate appears, I think, in the middle of the ocean, and like these elves from another world, they come and they sort of like kind of settle in Japan, but at the same time they need to make sure that there's not too much cross-pollination, because yes, there's magic and things, but also the fact that we have guns, so that the elves will start like trafficking guns from Japan to their world. So it's a stable, and I'm trying to, for love nor money, remember what the hell the damn series was called. It was some years ago that I watched it. Can I bloody remember what it was called though? So if I catch it, I'll shout it. Or
right. I think that's because I would also say, sorry, Thaylien, do you have something to add?
No, go on.
See, I would say the same thing about, with the exception of like magical Spec-Ops Asuka. I would say that the same thing is true about, as I desperately click through buttons, most magical girl anime, right? Yes, it is magic, and yes, it takes place generally in a city setting, but I don't think it's an urban fantasy, really, because it's not about that.
I kind of think this is where it comes into the whole. So it's the urban setting. It's fantasy tropes, right? It is Monster of the Week. It's a Sentai thing, in that respect. But and of course, they're fighting monsters rather than mythical creatures. They can look like mythical creatures, but they're definitely monsters. And the protagonist has to cope with both worlds.
Yeah.
I mean, less so with Spec-Ops Asuka, but definitely so with Sailor Moon, for example. And they've got the young protagonist thing down. But the reason for this one, I think, is because there is the other thing about an urban fantasy setting that isn't always required, but is definitely a contributor to the idea of an urban fantasy, which is keeping the fantasy hidden.
Oh, I don't know that I would say you want to keep the fantasy hidden in an urban fantasy.
No. I mean, it's not essential. It's not essential, as I say, but it's definitely a contributor. So it's one of those ones that's not it isn't always the case, but you can't let regular people know who Sailor Moon is, for example.
Right.
In the same way, something like Ah My Goddess, right? I would class this sort of as a reverse isekai, but the world is definitely not ready for magic or the fantasy setting, and she brings people from her world over into this one. What's up, Zena?
I found it. It's called Copcraft.
Copcraft.
Oh,
yeah.
Fuck, yeah, you got me to watch that. It's brilliant.
Yeah. Well,
Yes.
sounds like I'm adding that to my list.
Yeah, but it's actually got the tag urban fantasy in it as well.
There you go.
Yes. So, Ah My Goddess brings across other characters that actually do start messing with the world, and there's, as well as goddesses, it's demons, and the world
So what makes this one different than Dragon Maid? Because in Dragon Maid, they also don't want people to know about the dragons, and in Dragon Maid, they also bring other dragons that start messing with things. So what makes this one functionally different from Dragon Maid? Because
in Dragon Maid, they are focusing on trying to force this into everyday life, whereas in Ah My Goddess, the guy's being forced into fantasy life, and the world isn't ready for that. Yeah, they do have the enemies and stuff, don't they? Yeah. So in this case, it's Keiichi is being drawn into the fantasy from his everyday life, whereas with Dragon Maid, they're trying to fit fantasy into the everyday life.
I mean, I think we're spending a lot of time trying to discover the definition we like the most when it comes to urban fantasy. Yes. Which, I mean, so I think we're going to backtrack here and there in bits. But I think one thing I really like about urban fantasy is the fact that it's the sort of like the hidden underlayer of what the regular people perceive. So I'm pretty sure Belle Dandy is actually part of Earth, right? Whereas let's take Washu or Lady Tokimi, or they are from outer space. They are aliens, right?
Yes. So that's more of an urban sci-fi.
Well, regardless of that, also look at the fact that Kobayashi, Toru, Lokua, all of those dragons, they're actually just from another world, right? Now, there's one series that did this really good. I can't remember it in total. It's something Black Company, right? Where, was it like the Dungeon of Black Company or something like this? Where effectively a guy gets isekai'd and he can't use magic in any way, shape, or form, right? And that's what it's the last one there, Nasuth. Yeah. It feels very much a case of like when it comes to an isekai, they couldn't teach Kobayashi how to use magic, right? And I thought to myself, well, is that just a case of like they could learn magic? But I think, if memory serves, Shota is actually, his like father or his grandfather came to our world, right? And that, just basically so that they could take lots of material, like lots of books and things, and produce them in the fantasy world to make bank, right?
Yes.
So Shota has an origin in the other world.
So he can use magic, but Kobayashi can't. Magic. Okay.
In theory, we haven't seen them try.
Still love this little the whole thing about how he managed to get a dragon. He was trying to summon, and he accidentally summons he actually thinks he accidentally summons a succubus because it's Lukoa, of course.
But yeah, so that's like the I think a huge thing that I would like to stipulate as a rule whenever it comes to urban fantasy is the fact that, can this level of cross-pollination happen? And I think with Kobayashi Dragon Maid, I could be wrong, I think it can't, right? which is why, to me, it just firmly fits in, like, just reverse isekai.
Yes. This is where the difference between that and something like the Fate series is really important. Because in the Fate series, magic is a part of our world. It's just incredibly secret.
Yes.
See?
Yeah. You know.
Okay, but what if you have... I'm trying to think of an example of a show where this exists.
Sorry, that's just so adorable. Okay, like what? What, the idea of the cross-pollinization? Or
Yeah, you know what? I'm having a hard time thinking of a show where this exists, so I probably shouldn't. I could come up with any series, any number of what ifs, and...
Well, okay, so what is your what if? And I'll try and think of a show.
So what if you're talking about, like... So are you talking about, like, what if you have magical races in the same world, but they can't cross-pollinate? So what if you have, like, only the mage race can actually use magic, or like the witches in? So
I wish we had Copcraft in the system, because Copcraft really covers a lot of this, right? So not only do you have the lack of cross-pollination in terms of humans can't use magic, right? But you also have the fact that, you know, the elves are bringing new kinds of drugs to the human world. The elves are trying to, or the humans are trying to sell guns to the elven world. You have that level of cross-pollination as well. But again, like, it's like,
so it
the
doesn't
only
have to just be. It doesn't have to just be, can they use magic, or can they reproduce with each other in order to use magic? You know, have children that can use magic.
Yeah,
it's just any level of cross-pollination on that kind of scale.
Maybe it's a degree to, like, how much the societies have intermixed, right? Again, as you said, magical Spec-Ops Asuka is a good example, but I think one that is kind of a good example against, which is on this list, is actually Burn the Witch. Right. Because they actually have to go to other dimensions to do their job. Yes. And their job doesn't affect our world.
No, but do they stop being witches just because they come back to our world?
Oh, damn!
That's the thing.
Okay.
So they're witches because
it doesn't have to just be
other
worlds.
World, and
yeah.
You
have something like Jujutsu Kaisen. Well, I don't want to bring up Jujutsu Kaisen yet.
If you guys want to talk about Jujutsu Kaisen, you can, right? I personally don't want to.
I want to go for something that is a clear-cut urban fantasy, but isn't, like, action-oriented. I want to go with Fruits Basket.
Oh, okay.
So, Fruits Basket is definitely an urban fantasy. You have innate magic in our world that is causing a family, a large branching family in Japan, to be very isolationist and keep to themselves in the same way that many other rich families do. But the reason is because of fantasy, because of a magical curse that's on their family. And we're introduced to it. It's still a part of our world. It's still an aspect of it, but nobody knows about it except by accident, except when they're drawn into it. So the Soma family can bring in other people. They can marry out of the family. Then advised not to, but it's, you know, some of the core tragedies of the family are because, say, a Soma son married a woman from from outside the family, and when their child is born, the mother holds their child, and their child turned into a rabbit.
Yeah,
you know, it's it is a remarkably complex situation when you actually think about it. But they've managed to keep the secret. They've managed to keep it hidden from the entire rest of the world, barring this small area that they are drawing from outside the family or from within the family. So I don't know what else you'd describe it as in this respect. It's definitely modern day. It's definitely a fantasy thing, and it's definitely worth pointing out. Sorry, Nasuth's taking notes, and it's making me giggle.
What?
I love Fruits Basket for the story it tells. The story is completely independent, as it were, from the fantasy. You could tell this story with non-fantasy characters, because it would be the rich exclusionary family and people from outside of it, and the tragedies that occur with elitism and money and tradition holding sway over the needs of more modern society. But the fact they do tell it with this basis in fantasy adds to the layers of complexity and to the tragedy in the story. So I love this for that fact.
So I get kind of where you're coming from. I think I want to play devil's advocate here, and I want to drive the conversation. I've seen the original series of Fruits Basket, and I started rewatching it in the, I think it was like 2019 version. The problem for me is the fact that I remember the original so damn well, right? I was struggling to rewatch what I'd already known. But to me, it's very... It's not like... As far as I got, the Somas had this curse put upon them because they were bridging the barriers between worlds. It wasn't a case of they had this curse put upon them because someone peed on a Buddha statue. It wasn't a case of they have this responsibility to guard the years, the seasons. It's very slice of life.
It's very much like all of the important information that we should have happened so far in the past that nobody cares about it, and they just think the status quo is going to continue. The story is about breaking the status quo, so that's where the actual emotional story comes in.
It's also very insular, right? It's
yes.
So this is part of what why I don't want to say Kobayashi is an urban fantasy, because again it's very, very insular, right? If it turned out
can you assume that this sort of thing happens in other places in the world as well? Is it just isolated to this family only because we're seeing it, or are we only seeing this small slice of this sort of thing happening other places as well? Like, do these spirits exist all over the world and they're just do a better job of staying hidden?
So you raise a really valid point, don't get me wrong, but the problem is you only have the information that has been delivered to you. So if you only see this one family, you shouldn't assume that there's going to be other families, right?
Yes.
It's a case of like...
I think that's fair for Kobayashi. I'm not so sure that's fair for something like this, where these are spirits of this world.
Yeah, but
in a sense, yes.
But it's the Chinese zodiac, right? We have all the animals of the Chinese zodiac. We don't have like but this
bloodline.
So we don't also have the Greek zodiac that exists somewhere that we know about.
Well, or the Greek pantheon or whatever, but
maybe a good one for this, if there was an expansion, would be the Native American gods.
Sure.
Because those gods are not like your classic storybook ones. Actually are forces of nature as well.
Yeah.
And so there could be.
But the thing is,
that's the same kind of thing.
That's fair though.
And that's part of the problem. With Kobayashi Dragon Maid, you're like, okay, but we have seen that there is an incel of dragons that have come to our world. Nothing says it can't happen again, right? But nothing has said it has ever happened before or after the events of Kobayashi Dragon Maid. God, the more we speak about Kobayashi Dragon Maid, the more I realise I just want a third season. But again, so I like there's so much to Fruits Basket that does tick the boxes, but at the same time, it's like, to what end does this family have this? And I feel like, yes, okay, if it was a case of like this was something that was that happened hundreds of years ago, and it's been going on for so damn long that they may have forgotten or something like that, fine. But at some point in time, I feel I would need to know that before I could actually classify this personally as urban fantasy.
Bringing this back to My Goddess, would you say that the events of that impact a larger scale? I think I would.
100%. The basis
because
of the
you get
show
all of
is
like
that
heaven
the
involved
gods
at
of
one point, don't you?
Yeah, the basis of the show is that heaven interferes with the real world.
Okay, then
on
yes,
a semi-regular basis. Okay, Belldandy literally works for the Goddess Relief Office for giving people who are deserving wishes to change their lives.
I think
the whole reason that she appears. So there is definitely a sign that the fantasy on that world is affecting the rest of the real world.
So here's a brilliant way of looking at it, right? One of my biggest bugbears to do with Harry Potter is that the only two elements of the wizarding world we know of is Hogwarts and the fact that the Ministry of Magic exists, right?
Oh, there's also Gringotts.
And it's just,
I suppose.
Yeah, that's, you know.
No, but but my whole point is that magic is supposed to be like everywhere. It's supposed to be so prevalent, right? But yet it's like so the narrative is so confined to this one sodding school that it's like, why, you know, one of the best parts of the whole series.
Even when they talk about the other schools, they come to Hogwarts. It's not like Hogwarts goes to the other schools. Yeah.
No, well, yeah, they come to Hogwarts, but there are other schools though. But
we don't actively see them or their worlds or anything. We only see them through the eyes of Hogwarts, which,
yes,
I mean, at least we're still getting a
narrative device though. With seeing that the story of Harry Potter is told almost exclusively from the point of view of Harry Potter.
Yeah, but they could have had him go to one of those other schools to be like, now that he's comfortable with Hogwarts, they could throw him into the deep end somewhere else. You know?
But that's the ridiculous thing though. Is like the whole reason those schools came to Hogwarts. Sorry, we will get back to anime, I promise. I just want to shit on this one last time. The whole reason why the other schools came to Hogwarts was because they were doing the Quidditch Cup, right? His name was in the Quidditch Cup, so he could have gone to another school.
Tournament.
Oh, was it whatever?
Yeah. So it's basically, it just happened that the Triwizard Tournament would be being held this year, and it was
Hogwarts.
being held at Hogwarts. They could have sent him to the other ones. They didn't.
But
and
how
that would
cool
have
would
probably
that
made
been?
for way more fun.
Right. Let's unless you guys want to really jam.
Let's
Let's bring it back to anime. Bring it back.
Thinking of tournaments. Let's
hang on. Can I cover one?
Oh yeah, go on.
So,
yes,
I want to talk a little bit about Drifting Home because I'm not sure exactly where this one fits in, and I want you guys to kind of help me place that. So, we've got a story that is definitely set in an urban setting because this is an old, rundown abandoned apartment building, right? And it has a ghost story element to it, where these kids, it's kind of haunted in as much as buildings retain the memories of the people who've lived there over the decades and whatever, and it ends up. But here's the thing, though. It ends up transporting them into this sort of pocket world thing where it's just that building floating on an ocean. So, does this count as an urban fantasy? Because it is steeped in urban, aesthetic, in as much as it is an apartment building, and it starts in the urban world, and these are people from with urban street smarts and that sort of thing. So
this is a movie, isn't it?
It is a movie,
yes,
yeah.
it is. I would count this more as just a fantasy adventure, in the same way that Spirited Away was, and the same way that a few other things, where you have ordinary people that go off on an adventure into a fantasy setting, and then come back to the real world.
Because all the magic stuff happens in the other world, not really our world.
But
yeah,
part
it's a
of
Narnia thing.
But part of our world goes with them, right?
Yes, in as much as it's the building, and they do see other buildings there that are floating as well, and
Okay, so I feel that's critical, right? The fact that, again, we don't just have cross-pollination of the one building, right? We see other buildings in this world as well. Are they other local buildings, or are they, like, there's Big Ben?
I believe they are other Japanese buildings, like apartment buildings and stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
I'd have to rewatch it. It's actually so good. I wouldn't mind rewatching it. But yeah,
I still would class this as more of a Narnia thing, where there are people there, and even the buildings are being transported to another world to have an adventure, and then coming back. So it's a there and back again situation. So
it seems to very much be just this group of kids, and just this is the building that brought them there. We don't see other people in this world that have been brought by other buildings. We only see the other buildings.
But here's the problem, though, right? Here's the problem with this whole thing, is the fact that this is a movie, right? This is, like...
Yeah.
If it had...
building.
Yeah, if you had more time, maybe they would encounter other kids in other buildings, right? Or maybe they'd find, like, families trapped in their apartment buildings or something like this. It's really hard to say because there's not a whole lot of wiggle room. This definitely has room to say that it could be an urban fantasy, but it entirely depends on the direction that they want to go in. I mean, as I don't want to say an Narnia thing, I want to say an isekai thing. It does very heavily lean on, is this just an isekai? No.
Yeah.
I don't think it's an isekai. I think Narnia is closer to it. Although it's Narnia is an isekai.
Yeah.
Compare Drifting Home to the other modern fantasy setting, the other movie that seemed to have almost a similar setting, a similar aesthetic to it.
Oh God, was it Bubble?
Yes. So that wasn't the same kind of thing, but compare that to Drifting Home, where in Bubble, the fantasy came to us and took over, create a whole zone in Japan,
that is true. Yeah.
where it was complete, where the rules worked differently, people could do strange things, and where the fantasy, well, in this case, the sci-fi people, could practically manifest and become us for a bit, or like us for a bit.
You might be right. Bubble might actually be more of an urban fantasy than Drifting Home.
Yeah. Strange
I don't remember which one it is.
The one before Bubblegum Crisis, dude.
Yeah.
BNA Bubblegum Crisis. I thought I hit it, but apparently it didn't do shit, so...
No,
what?
That's what the crisis you've hit.
No, because Bubble and Bubblegum...
because Bubble,
so Bubble has Bubblegum.
Oh, dear. Oh, well.
I'll refine that.
Yeah. So Bubble... Yeah, I think this kind of does fit into a short urban fantasy more
because
than
the
others.
fantasy comes to the urban setting rather than the urban setting going to the fantasy.
Exactly, and because while it's in the urban setting, it fundamentally changes that setting as well.
Yeah,
it
becomes steeped in the culture and changes how people perceive the world. And that's fair. That's fair.
It's a remarkable contrast when you think about it. It's very similar looking things with the ocean around the buildings and everything rising. So that there's these aquatic elements to everything, and this limitation where if you fall off the building, you're in the water, and it comes with its own hazards there.
I think one of the most intriguing aspects to an urban fantasy is the fact that it kind of shows an underlying layer of what we thought our reality was isn't actually the case, right?
Yes.
It's a case of, like, Well, you could do it with a calculator, or you could talk to the math spirits, right? it to me, it has this charm and elegance to it that there is still, I suppose, like, you know, there was a meme, like, you know, born too late to explore the world, born too early to explore space, right? And it feels that with urban fantasy, there is this charm.
Fantasy instead.
Yeah,
yes.
There's this charm that it kind of, there is still more of the world to explore.
Yes.
You just can't see it.
What I just suddenly had a thought of is the amazing parallel between Western and Eastern fantasy philosophy there, because a lot of the Northern European fantasy is similar to the Japanese, almost Shinto style spirituality. So in Japan, the spirit world is literally layered into their world. It's into everything. So the spirits lurk in little corners or between spaces between your dresser and your wall. They have all of these little elements. But in the same way, the wild places of Northern Europe have similar fantasy things. So little fairy rings,
your brownies and your
and your pixels,
your red
and
caps.
They're all spirits, almost. The Fae are spirits of the wild. So when you're out in the wild, you follow certain rules. You don't do certain things specifically, so you don't get taken away with the fairies. And it's an amazing similarity that that's probably why something like Spirited Away became an international hit, because it's incredibly relatable to both sides of the fantasy divide.
Probably the same thing with Pan's Labyrinth, right? Because that one was Spanish originally, and it made it big everywhere.
Yep. What was the other one? The Jim Henson.
Labyrinth or Dark
Labyrinth. Labyrinth. Yes.
Both.
Labyrinth.
Really.
Also because it's David Bowie, and Bowie is just a force of nature unto himself. But that apparently did gangbusters over in Japan. Yeah, because of the same thing. It crosses into that that fantasy thing where the rules have to be followed, otherwise, or strategically broken, so that you know how you're actually interacting with the world.
That's actually a really good point. Yeah,
so
because you've got stuff like the oubliette and the weird breaks in the labyrinth that look like solid wall because of perspective, and that's a really good one.
Or the fact that in Labyrinth, the Fairy King, Bowie's character, literally fast forwards time so she has less time, and she says, "That's not fair," but you don't expect me to be fair. You know? Mm-hmm. So you expect me to break the rules, so that's what I'm doing. Exactly that. So, and the same thing happens with in the Japanese side of things. If you're expecting a spirit that will break rules and do things, even though you are fair and just, then there will be a spirit that does that.
I think a good example of this that's not Ghibli is actually Mononogatari, because in this, all the spirits are objects that have become inhabited by a spirit, and that spirit has to behave the way that their object is. They want to be like their object. So you've got musical instruments that want to be heard, that want to perform for people, that want to make people be heard by more and more people even. Or you've got a potter's wheel that just wants to make things because that's what its user did for years and years. That's what imbued it with that spirit. I think this is another really good example of that. Yeah, but in this one, everyone knows about the magic. The magic is everywhere. It's only that certain people are only really able to handle it and seal away these spirits when they go out of control. But everyone kind of knows about it.
This actually does bring on to the next kind of talking point is what changes in an urban fantasy when everybody knows about magic.
Ooh.
Yeah,
and
so
starts using
there's so very few shows that actually go into that because when everybody knows about magic, it isn't special, and most of the shows that do this seem to think that it'll advance technology in some way as well. So they often do slightly sci-fi versions of magic, like Zeno and I watch the Irregular at Magic High, and it's or even Asterisk War, where the magic has created technology, and then the entire show's based around this sci-fi-ish magic element.
I wanna interject because I think the best show, the one I'm trying to avoid, that actually talks about what you're discussing here is Jujutsu Kaisen, right? Because one of the best parts of JJK is the fact that they have to keep the whole curse energy stuff a secret because it is so difficult to police curses and stuff like this, and so few people have the potential to police curses and stuff that if people found out about curses and stuff, it would become a lot more rampant.
Doesn't the very knowledge of curses increase their likelihood of being created? Because if people believe in them,
exactly.
Yeah,
it's like
it's 100% the problem there.
It's the whole you can't know about. Sorry, this is a Warhammer 40k thing. You can't let anyone know about chaos because if anyone knows about chaos, then chaos spreads.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
I've got to exterminatus this shit, man.
Or to reference a really bad movie, The Bye Bye Man.
I don't want to know.
You don't want to know. It's a terrible movie. But those are the audience. If you know, you know.
You can't let the space orcs know that they can't breathe in space because otherwise they die.
Yes.
So it's stuff like that. So again, like this mix of we have to police this. That's why we got to keep it all hush hush and under the lid because if it grows out of control, we can't do shit about it. Yeah.
Yes. So I'll tell you an interesting one that kind of does half and half.
Yeah.
And Dino probably won't like me for bringing it up. And it is K Project. God. Because this is a world where the magic was discovered, and the inventor of it, the discoverer of it, the pioneer of it, basically moved everything over to Japan to try and, keep it out of the hands of the warring World War II era. And everything in that world has kind of evolved a little bit more because of there being magic. Yet not everybody knows about it. So the biggest corporation in the country is run by one of the guys with magic. There are a citywide security force run by one of the guys that has magic and so can imbue it into his followers. One of the gangs in the city is run by, like this one, is run by the guy with magic and can imbue the magic into his followers. And it's a whole interconnected underworld almost, except it's mostly out in the open as well, because they go fighting in the streets and blowing each other up. The Reds and the Blues regularly get into high-flying skirmishes where one of them wanted to go and move over their territory into a new building. And
I just want to make a red versus blue joke here, and I'm resisting so hard.
Of course. Well, I don't know. If one of them suddenly spoke in Texan accent with a shotgun, I wouldn't be surprised. Certainly this guy. But the whole thing is that it's like an open secret where if anybody went looking, they would find magic. But the most of the people aren't really concerned with it. They're going about their everyday lives because it doesn't affect them. So it's a weird balance where magic does change the world fundamentally, but depending on how much the world knows about it.
Yeah.
That's even in Sailor Moon we were discussing earlier. The world does seem to know about the monsters that are attacking, and about the Sailor Senshi who come and defeat them, but they have no idea why any of this is happening. So it's just like, oh no, this is another monster. It's another attack. We have no idea how do we deal with this. Whereas then the Sailor Senshi show up and defeat it, and it's like, oh, all right, that's like the emergency services. They've got their fire department, their magical fire department comes out and puts out the fire. You can take something like K and then compare it even further to the Fate series. Because in that...
Oh, sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, what were you going to ask?
Well, we're talking about magical girls a little bit, and the world knowing about these people. And there are two other ones. We've briefly talked about Asuka. Should we go a little deeper into that one and how magic has changed that world? One. That's not the right one. That's the right one.
So Spec-Ops Asuka. In this one, as Xeno will point out a lot, this is a world where magical girls exist, and so they became military assets.
Yeah. And
that changed the face of war across the world.
It's so sorry to correct you on this. It was a case of that gates appeared very much like Copcraft and Gate. And effectively there was an invasion, right? There was an invading force that attacks the our world and everything, and then another universe, another world comes to ours and offers assistance with the aid of basically turning us into magical girls, or giving us magical girls.
Giving us magical girls.
Yeah. No, the three of us, we're magical girls. So yeah. Yeah. So they train up
magical girls, and we're given magical girls. This is fantastic.
Oh my god!
But
I only see this as a win.
Magical girls all the way down.
But the whole point is that the war's happening. We then train up magical girls, and it's a war, so they're militarily trained, right?
Yeah.
Which is a brilliant break from the norm. And
what the?
Well, I know I didn't get these images because that's really late in the series, Nasuth.
What?
But anyway, but God, yeah, it's.
I mean, what?
It's a brilliant series. For the most part, the fact that it's worldwide affecting. It's not just.
It's not just Japan.
Oh, yeah,
it's not just a small group of people. It's not just villain of the week stuff. It really talks about how the entire world. I mean, it could have go into more detail, and I think it would have had it gotten more seasons.
Oh god, yeah.
Yes.
But it's very clear that the entire world has been changed because of the presence of these people and this magic and stuff. The other one I want to talk very briefly about, because it is in our review coming up in a few weeks, so I don't want to go into too much spoiler territory. Is Shy. Because this one appears to be a superhero anime on the surface, but it's very much a magical girl anime. And it's another case of the entire world knows about them and treats them as heroes.
but the actual basis for them is exactly the same kind of magical girl background that you'd expect, with little helpers that come and talk to them, and a magical home base where they're taught about giving, about the powers and how they're given from the heart and things.
And also very similarly to Asuka, they ended like not just a war but all war. But that said, I don't think this one goes into nearly as much detail about how the world has actually been changed as a result of that. Like, the rest of the world pretty much seems to continue to go on just as it always has. Yes. These people aren't militarized. Like, they're their own group,
No. They can't
not
be
controlled.
militarized is the thing, it looks like.
Yeah, probably.
Because they are across the entire world. So there's some in most different countries. So you've got a Russian, you've got an English person, you've got a Japanese person, you've got Chinese, and I believe the
is it Netherlands or Denmark?
The black is she's European. She's Swiss.
Is she Swiss?
Might be something like that.
But I mean, she's a healer. That's all I remember.
Yeah, she's and the only one I haven't seen is anybody from America, but that's
But does this one actually fit into the urban fantasy setting though? Because
I kind of feel it does, because it's a case of, but it kind of fits in too well, right? So it's a case of we've got these superhero magical girl characters that have basically ceased all need for war to exist, right? Which is great. But at the same time, it's a case of, well, now human civilization is devoid of chaos and things like this. So it's like, why aren't you never see them like stop a bank robbery. You never see them.
Well, actually,
much like Sailor Moon, the urban setting is almost secondary to what we're seeing.
Remember though, this is literally the first episode of Shy. She goes up and
saving
helps
a roller coaster. Yeah,
there was it's a roller coaster disaster.
Yeah.
Later on, not to put too fine a point, but she goes in to try and save people from a burning building.
Mm-hmm. And I think we've heard about other heroes also doing stuff like that. Yeah.
Right.
Yes. But again, it almost feels secondary. It we're given those two couple of glimpses, but then the focus becomes all about the meta plot that I don't want to really reveal.
But my whole point.
They do circle back to they do circle back to like showing Shy getting interviews or public appearances.
Yeah, but
that is another point.
But here's the crux of it. Here's the crux of it. You never see the heroes fight other people, right? You never see them like, okay, I'm stealing a car, I'm going for a dry ride, right?
But I wouldn't
never
say
see it.
Because even when they're fighting other people, it's not. It's more like fighting somebody that
it's the villains of the series.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the big thing is, it feels like Earth has become a utopia because of the impact that the magical girls have had.
Okay,
right?
Fair point.
So I do think that this does have the urban and fantasy qualities to it, but it may have been like, we kind of dialed it up to 11. We've kind of dialed it too high.
Because their impact is so large, we as the audience aren't actively fed it. It's more of a passive thing that you see. I get you. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because one of the characters we do find was conflicted. Had conflict and had to be reassured by the other characters because they were fighting one of the bad guys and it caused damage to the surroundings. It's not because they were fighting regular people or solving a problem in the real world. all of these ones do seem to be, well, for the rest of them, we see Shy do this.
Yeah.
Saving a baby from a burning building. But again, it's a little bit more treated as a superhero thing.
Yeah.
With us, the viewers, seeing the magical girl thing because that's actually being hidden from the vast majority of the world.
That's true. So it even does kind of have that hidden element side to it.
I mean, talking about unless you guys want to talk about anything else to do with
no,
Shy,
we should probably move away from Shy before we get into spoilers.
So one talking about the hidden elements of things. So there's two series that I think are really interesting to talk about fantasy wise. One of them is Noragami, which is effectively you have this hidden layer to humanity. It has this very realistic problem of letting people become poisoned by corruption and things like this. So the gods have to maintain a balance. They have to make sure that humanity doesn't corrupt itself to a point of oblivion. Otherwise, the gods can't exist anymore. So they're basically fighting for their own survival, and they can't exist without humans. So it's a double-edged sword on this. But the great thing about exploring this urban fantasy side is you have a human that gets pulled into the mix of it, which works really bloody well. So you get to learn. She can't do half the shit that our other protagonists,
of the other main characters, can really do.
Yeah, but it's you can see everything we're saying about with this whole urban fantasy side of things. The other show, in direct contrast, is Beyond the Boundary. Now, Beyond the Boundary is an excellent series, has this whole urban fantasy to it and everything, but the problem is that this layer of urban fantasy is completely hidden to the rest of society. You never explore the world of Beyond the Boundary in terms of this is a new person discovering the world for the first time, right? Like in Gate, where you have the soldier who goes and does some isekai wandering, or Issei from
High School DC.
Yeah, who's just become a demon himself, or Chisei, who is a slay beggy in who's exploring her own powers in the Ancient Magus Bride. In Beyond the Boundary, the whole series, like, they all know about this hidden layer of our world, which is like, is this truly an urban fantasy, right? Because realistically, the events of them. Have either of you two seen this?
No, I haven't.
I have not. I'm interested.
Right. It's a very, very good series. You both should watch it, right? Just to throw that out there. But the events of the series is basically they're at the school, but the school is more of a setting than anything else. Like, you could put this in a library, you could put this in a shopping mall. The school has next to no relevance to their daily lives, right? It's not like, I have to cram for an exam. Shit, there's a demon out the window. I gotta go jump out the window, right? It's
what is the name of that show?
Like, so I don't know if this falls into the realm of urban fantasy, especially considering that they get paid for dealing with the spirits that are running amok. It's just like, they get paid just so that they can live. It's difficult. It's really, really difficult. So, I don't know.
I don't think we don't have Charlotte in the system, do we? We need to add Charlotte.
No, we don't have Charlotte in the system.
I was going to say, Noragami and this, just listening to you talk about them, kind of reminds me of Charlotte. It does that one. I think that one actually would be a better urban fantasy than this just based on what you're saying, because while the school isn't exactly important, it does play a major role in a lot of the events in that story, and then even the city at large later.
Yeah.
So I think Charlotte would definitely fit into the urban fantasy role, and gives me a similar vibe to these two shows, because you're dealing with this hidden world, you're dealing with a lot of stuff. Yeah.
So again, like, I kind of feel that, us talking about this, urban fantasy is actually probably a very heavily downplayed series, and yeah, we need to get more on that.
Definitely. So I have a proposition that I know isn't on the list, so
by all means,
it's one of those questions of let's ask the question at least. Deadman Wonderland.
Ooh, I haven't watched that, so I can't really say.
Xeno has, and Deadman Wonderland is a show where the protagonist is taken out of his world, but in a sense of it's an underground fighting ring, right? There are strange powers, in a sense, and despite the gritty setting and everything, it's just a hidden part of our world that not everybody knows about. So it's definitely modern day, because he's coming directly out of a schoolroom, and the whole series that we actually see, not the manga going into everything else.
Okay.
But, it's interesting.
I get where you're coming from. I want to say, okay. A part of me is leaning on towards no, because with Deadman Wonderland, the underground fighting ring stuff, it never spills out to the real world, right? At least that we don't see in, like, so to give some clarity for everyone, effectively there are people that have oh god, I can't believe I was about to say that. We have people that have like special abilities, right?
Based around blood.
Yeah, based around blood. I wasn't going to go into that detail, but regardless. But the important thing is that with these characters, they're effectively scooped up, put into a prison, and then put into underground cage matches. They are effectively completely isolated from any impact to the real world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is what pushes me more towards the no. I hate to say this, right?
Yes.
But Tokyo Ghoul is closer to an urban fantasy, because effectively they are hiding in public. They're trying to pretend to be regular humans.
The reason I asked about Deadman Wonderland is because it's quite clear that these cage matches, these death matches, are being bet on by people around the world. So it's just a hidden element. It's not... the real world does know about them in certain circles. And it's definitely fantasy powers. There's no argument that these are not some kind of... They're not magic, but they're definitely fantasy based. They're not sci-fi or anything.
So while the stuff itself is only contained into one area, the idea of it could happen other places.
Indeed, and we at the not to put too many spoilers on, at the end of the series that is actually animated and available, we do see a breakout. So these powers can return to the real world, or the rest of the world. So,
see, I think that counts. If it could happen other places and it just hasn't yet, then technically this does permeate the entire world, and there are people that know about it.
The reason why I push against this is, like, I don't know if either of you two have watched the Western series Prison Break, but imagine that effectively the main gang, they're breaking out of one prison to then break into another prison that's surrounding the original prison, to then break out of the second prison into a third prison. It's just like it's a prison onion. There we go. That's what I'm trying to say. It's a prison onion.
It's a prison onion, and to get out of it, they've got to shift it to maximum ogre drive.
Oh my god. Yeah. And that's like that is my concern when it comes to Deadman Wonderland. It's just the fact that, okay, yes, they're doing a breakout, but they're breaking out from one layer to another. They're still trapped in the prison.
Yes. But their goal is to eventually get out, right? I mean, if they could break out, their powers would their powers cease to exist? I mean, I guess I'm asking you to write the story that we don't know.
That's the thing. When Nasuth said this could happen elsewhere, the thing is, it is happening elsewhere. They're just transporting all of the people it happens to the same location, so they can't be found.
But here's the question for you. Just because more dragons could appear in Kobayashi's Dragon Maid all around the world.
But I think Thaylien's already answered that.
Haven't.
They are appearing around the world, and they're just getting picked up, sort of like in Charlotte, right? In Charlotte, if the government found out about them, they wouldn't be allowed to roam the way they do.
Yeah.
In this, they know about them, and so they get captured and teleported away.
Sorry, Nasuth, can you do a highlight? We just lost you for a second.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Just double check. Yeah. So it's in this case, all these people, people with powers, are appearing around the world. They are coming up, and so it's just a matter of the fact that there's a global cover-up that's preventing it from getting to the general public.
Do we know that they're coming from all over the world?
Apparently, some of the ones that are already in there are all different ages and have different background origins, different countries of origin.
So there you go. I think that counts. I mean, I would say that counts more than as Thaylien was discussing it, as you both were discussing it, something like Utena, right? Where all we know is that the magic exists within this school. The school grounds are special for reasons that I won't get into for people that haven't seen the series. But the school grounds are special, and magic only exists there currently. Now, in theory, again, things I don't want to get away, it did exist before the school in other places, and it could exist again. But currently, it only is possible to exist within the boundaries of this school. So, does this count as an urban magic setting? Urban fantasy setting? It is a fantasy. It is very much a fantasy, and the school is modern.
Right, but does everyone know about the school? Do people know of the school's existence, or do a select? Right,
people, but only a select few know of the magic at the school. So it's a hidden world thing.
I'd say yes.
Yeah,
I'd say yes. If people know about the school's existence, but don't know about the whole magic element to it, I would say yes.
Yeah, I would. My one is because I would go the opposite way, because if the magic only exists in one location, which we don't know the reason
currently,
it could be more of a isekai thing where you go to a certain place where there is magic, and then it doesn't work again when you leave there. So, especially if people don't know about it in general. Because if that one place was in any way removed, destroyed, sent back to another world or whatever, then the world wouldn't have any magic anymore.
Yeah, essentially.
So I'm on the fence, but I'm leaning towards a bit of no.
Yeah, that's why I was curious about, because I I think with Xeno's criteria, with the magic in Deadman Wonderland being contained to a specific place, it wouldn't be an urban fantasy because they can't take the magic with them. They can't take the magic with them when they leave.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's a very specific set of conditions that have to be met in order for the magic to once again enter the world.
Right, but it could.
It could.
Ah, yeah, okay.
Right?
Yeah, that's true.
If it's just a case of like, we drew a ring of salt in the ground, therefore, the magic can't go beyond. But so if I rubbed out the salt in the ground, could then the magic permeate the rest? Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's okay.
So again, like, if that's the case, because again, I've not seen Utena, right? I would argue yes, it is, right? It's just a case of, they got there ahead of time and actually was smart enough to prevent it from going wild and out of control. Unlike the likes of Jujutsu Kaisen, where it's just like, nah, that fucking cap came off the bottle like way too long ago. Right?
Fair enough.
Right, so the only really other one we really should discuss in a little more detail, I think, would be things like the more shonen things, like Shakugan no Shana and Bleach,
or JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Yeah, JoJo's would be good.
Okay. I would certainly say JoJo is a yes. Right? I would certainly say Bleach is a yes.
Okay. What about Shakugan no Shana?
I can't remember Shakugan
no Shana is on the list.
Oh.
It is, but the problem is, I watched it fucking years ago.
Yeah, same.
And a large part of me wants... No, I'm from the basics I remember of Shakugan no Shana, the answer is yes, right? The problem is, I watched the third season and it ruined Shakugan no Shana for me because it does this huge time skip after... So, you got the first season, second season is complete filler, and then the third season has this huge time skip, and like so much has just changed. I'm like, I don't know what's happening anymore. So, but yeah, no, certainly Shakugan no Shana is urban fantasy, and yeah, so like all three of them.
And out of our list, The Devil is a Part-Timer.
Yes, I saw The Devil is a Part-Timer on the list, and I was like, technically yes, but also no.
No, it's to me this is a no, because the only people can use the magic, can do the hocus pocus horse shit
are the people here
from the original.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is reverse isekai.
Yeah.
I agree.
It's just it is just a reverse isekai.
So I think it's important to say, by the list that I found, the characteristics that I found, this would potentially technically fit in there. But by the list that we've compiled, I don't think so.
No, see, I don't. I think there needs to be like this huge thing of cross pollination, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, if it's too insular, right, or potential, at least potential of cross pollination, right? But realistically, they don't want to cross pollinate, much like Kobayashi's. Yeah, they want to go under the radar. They want to remain hidden, right? They don't want to sell magic drugs to... God, I wish we had Copcraft in the system.
Yes.
What's it called? They don't want to sell magic weed from Elfworld. They don't want to sell AK-47s to Elfworld, right? It's, I'd argue the toss that Gate is much more of an urban fantasy than
because of the possibility for that.
It's bringing the urban stuff to the fantasy world.
Yes.
No, the fact that it starts off with the vice versa, where they invade.
Yeah, that is true.
Right?
Yeah.
So So it's not insular, right? It's spread. It's public knowledge, right?
There are other countries trying to come and kill ambassadors or kidnap ambassadors from the other world. Just so with Devil as a part-timer, I think it falls into the same thing. It's rather than want to keep under the radar, they want to become part of this world.
Yeah, they just want to pretend to be normal people.
Well, to an extent. I mean, her plan of attack is painful. I want to go home. I don't have the ability to go home. Devil's like, I can't send you home because I have no magic left. You're just people then. You're just fucking... Anyway. Any
really
other...
hot tsundere.
Any other honorable mentions? Actually, one that we've brazenly overlooked, and then I'm good.
Is Death Note?
No, fuck no.
Oh,
fuck that noise. Right, it's actually is this a zombie or is that a zombie?
Yes. Is this a zombie? Right? Is this a zombie?
Yeah. So the great thing about Is This a Zombie is that they actively try to hide their activities, but you have cross-pollination not only in the sense of what's called the necromancy as well as modern day Japan, but also magical girls. You actually have 3 worlds or 2 worlds actually interacting with Earth, and you have like the attacks of these monster creatures that are attacking humanity, and they've got to they've got to deal with it and then cover it up using magic.
Yeah,
it's great in that sense.
Also the succubus vampire zombie vampire ninjas.
Vampire ninjas, yeah.
Who are also kind of hiding in plain sight, doing their own thing.
Yeah, actually, we don't know where the vampire ninjas actually come from, do we?
No, we don't know if they're in the same world as the magical girls or a different world.
Or actually just our world.
Weird.
Or our world, yeah.
Yeah, but the whole point is that this series does a really great job of just blending everything together, right? And if we have our insular group that's just trying to live a normal life, but at the same time we have groups of
the big monsters, the antagonists,
that are trying to just wreck shit up. The only thing that makes this urban fantasy and Kobayashi not is that we have bad guys trying to do bad things, right?
And they have to actively prevent people from remembering what they've seen.
Yep.
So they have to actively work to keep this world hidden. Yeah.
So I think there's a lot to go for with the original list of criteria, but I think the biggest thing to me is
I like our
the
list better.
Cross-pollination.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Magic needs to permeate the world through some way, through cross-pollination, or simply by existing there already. But it doesn't have to be on the surface. Which is it doesn't need to be. Can be, doesn't need to be. Doesn't have to lead the action. It can be just a nice sort of.
You can tell any story with it.
Yeah. It can provide at least a window. No, it needs to provide at least a window into the larger world of magic, even if that's not the focus. Which again, like this, and magic can be contained to a location, but it needs to have the possibility of breaking free. Can you guys think of any other ones you want to add? Yeah. Any other criteria?
I think that last one is like a real important part. Actually, I think here's a question for you. Does it need to be magic, or could it be something like, let's say Deadman Wonderland, it was genetic. It was, it was genetic. It was mutations, right? It was.
Why is he a Beyblade? I didn't want to ask it. Why is he a Beyblade?
He's been smacked by I believe a truck.
Yeah.
Because he's a zombie, he's fine. Sorry, what was your question, Zeno? So when when it's something like, oh, it's just genetic, but really genetics can't do that, I classify that as science magic. It's sci magic. It's not real sci-fi.
Sci-fantasy.
Yeah. So if you can have sci-fantasy, then you can have urban sci-fantasy.
But I want my punch beams from the punch dimension. Anyway, right. So
yeah. There is one other criterion I would add to this to differentiate between a reverse isekai and a urban fantasy would have to be the intent. Okay, so when magic in Kobayashi's Dragon Maid, magic can break free and cover the whole world. Yeah. They don't intend for it to. The writers, the people involved, they want to just be part of this world.
Yeah.
And intent of breaking free. So it needs to have the possibility and intent of breaking. That's a good point, because in Utena, the eventual intent is to kind of bring it back. So, yep, that works out. That fits.
Cool. Right.
So, fantastic. We've covered.
Have we?
Urban fantasy.
Let us know in the comments what you think of our criteria. Let us know if we missed one of your favorite shows, and if you think any of the ones that we picked are shouldn't be on there.
But yeah, seriously, go watch
the ceiling. What is your wisdom?
Actually, Shinobi, but yeah, like the idea of Shinobi, but
assets just to make sure they're gone.
Right. Supporter question. Shit, that's my side. Sorry, I don't know why I got all gung ho for memes.
For memes. It's time for supporter questions. Silly Billy.
Oh my god, we've done this how often? And I don't know what the shit. I know I had this tab open somewhere. Oh wait, hold on. Is it on the other browser?
Do you want me to just read it off the screen?
13 times now.
No, I don't want to do that thing you said.
You want to read it. You don't want me to read it. You want to read it.
I want to read it.
He wants to be the very best, like no one ever was.
That there ever was. Bum, bum, bum.
And if you want to be his lover, you got to get with his friends.
That's right. Yeah.
I don't think you can see how the horrified expression on my face. Anyway,
I can feel it. I can feel it.
Right, so supporter questions. Zruel says, before we start the supporter questions, I just want to say thank you everyone for listening to our podcast so far. We really appreciate all the likes and subscriptions and comments everyone leaves on these episodes. Nasuth loves to read them all and get them all lined up for the actual episodes themselves. Right. So Zrugal asks, why? So have you noticed more and more of those anime and manga recap channels lately? Or is it just the algorithm trying to feed me anime? Also, have you ever watched an anime by only watching the recap channel? I've not seen channels do this, but I have seen like Instagram reels and shit where they've got like a segment of the show, so it's like, oh yeah, episode 1, part 19, or some stupid shit like this, and they've overdubbed it with narration of what is actually happening.
Yes.
Right?
What?
And it's just like, fucking why? Fucking
ridiculous.
No, so I know exactly what Zrugal means. There's a whole bunch of channels that do like advertising for a show almost.
Yeah.
By recapping what the show's about. And it's like a condensed version rather than an abridged version, which is usually comedy. It's a condensed version of the show with somebody just narrating what's happening.
Yeah.
Right? Rather than actually letting the show play. And it's a way to get the show out there with in a more
like imagine
format. I have followed these.
Imagine my episode notes that I take when I'm watching anime for the season. Imagine that, and I'm just reading that out over an episode segment.
Yes. But I've watched these for manhwa recaps, so that if I don't have time to read a manhwa, I will stick it on like an audiobook instead, because somebody narrating it can allow me to listen to it as an audiobook instead of that. But there is a surprising amount of these channels.
Is that just narration, or are they actually like condensing it?
Oh, it's narration over like the manhwa panels and things, and usually with a little bit of condensing, so that you don't spend so long on all the ridiculous dramatic moments.
So it's not just straight reading all the dialogue.
I would love this for manga, right? Because
that's what he's talking about.
He's talking about for manhwa. But Zrugel's talking about it for anime. I would love it for manga, mostly because I missed the manga part. But I would love it for manga because I had to reread I think the 3rd volume of Kaiju number 8 because I could not remember what the fuck happened. And if I was able to have this is a 10-minute video to recap volumes 1, another one for 2, and another one for 3, and then I could just watch 4 instead of spending so long just rereading 3. I could just then read 4 no hindrance whatsoever.
That's true.
I'd be down for that. But anyway,
so no and no for me. But what I ended up usually doing is watching videos that break down what a show was like. So one of the reasons I know a lot about the Eva movies, the Rebuild movies, is because I've watched a really deep dissection of that's more the thing I tend to get into is talking about why the series made these choices, turned out this way, what the story is really deeply about, what the symbol, all that sort of thing. That's my rabbit hole.
So you prefer the Vati video style deep dives?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
right. Okay, and then Nasuth in Shadow asks, last week's theme was tournament arcs. If Kanpai Cast was in a team-based tournament, how would you work together to win? Is such cooperation even possible between Xeno and Nasuth? It's super easy. Super easy on this one. I would change a 0 to a 1.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, that works.
Right. So, no, I have a tactic for this. I think that if we were in a team-based tournament, we'd make sure that it was a fantasy one. So Xeno could be some kind of specific spellcaster, for a big, important area of attacks for taking out the big targets. Nasuth would be a more summoner-oriented thing, so he could summon minions that could fill out our ranks. And I would run around like a madman, armed to the teeth, and stab things.
Nasuth, do you want to swap?
we max out Xeno's defenses and use him as a shield.
I'll be down with that.
And he screams obscenities at the enemies to demoralize them.
The attack around him,
I could do that really well.
Shield.
Anyway, Nasuth, do you have any tactic?
Nah.
Cool. Right. So moving on to the comments. First off from the news, Zrugel says, I don't watch Dragon Ball anymore, but I hope Daima is good. Watching GT was like watching an old friend suffer. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. A kids show I used to watch when I was young, now selling sake makes me feel old.
Yeah.
And delicious. Strombus Shell says, that spy...
is delicious.
Zrugel is delicious.
Strong Michelle says that Spy Family Cruise sounds interesting. I wonder what kind of activities they have aboard, or how long it is, or how long it took them to get the whole thing running. Good question. And then Effendor says, "Good news, fam."
Good news, family.
Moving on to the replies from the cast. Effendor says, I'm so glad Thaylien brought up the Grand Magic Games. Of what?
Fairy Tale.
Yes, that one, yes.
It is fucking peak tournament. Every fight felt important and was super fun to watch, and it kept the pace up the whole time. I'm only upset about Lucy being robbed, lol. Yeah, we get that.
Yeah, she got robbed.
Zrugel says, I would say Android 17 winning the tournament in Super counts as an unexpected winner. Having said that, what the brain? I didn't actually see the tournament or watch that far into Super, but I think it was a decent twist. It is worth mentioning because you guys kind of overlooked that, even though you talked about Super.
Okay,
I've never seen it, so I have no idea.
Zrugel and I had a fun little comment chain, but that's not important. Because I wanted to save this for the cast. The reason I didn't bring it up is because it is kind of a spoiler for the very end of the series. And which, I mean, it doesn't matter now. There was another reason. Oh, cool. because we'd already talked about how in these tournaments, you know how that if it's a team-based tournament,
it's predictable.
You already know that your team is going to win, and so even though Goku wasn't the winner, wasn't the ultimate winner, it was still Universe 6 that won. Yes, Universe 6 that won. 7. Seven. Yeah. Yes, you're right. Universe 7 that won. So yeah, I just didn't feel like it was. I was gonna bring it up, but then we got to that stipulation at some point, and I was like, oh well, okay, that kind of throws away that. But yep, that's why I didn't bring it up. There you go.
Zrugel also says, I didn't have much else to say this time, as I usually get bored with tournaments, but not enough to hate with a passion. Oh, I hate them. And then great memes, guys. The Magikarp one was the best.
Magikarp one was really good.
So damn funny. Strong Michelle says, you guys saying Battle Royale so much, you're going to invoke the Forts of Night! Or was it the Knights of Forts? Well, anyway,
I'd rather have
Babashi 4090.
I'd rather have a Royale with cheese. Thank you. A Battle Royale with cheese.
Let's move on to the memes.
Excellent. Everyone's favorite part, the memes. So these are fantastic because we get them all we get ours from Reddit, and we also get contributions onto the Discord from you, the viewers, up to 6 a week featured. I believe we have 4 this time. Is that correct?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So thank you all for that.
And they all now end up hosted on KanpaiCast.com, so you can go back and look at old ones without having fear of them being deleted by Reddit or the Redditors who posted them originally, which is really nice. So, shall we get into them?
Yep.
All right.
Absolutely.
Viewer meme number 1. You like anime? Please, let's be friends!
I want to know what that's from.
That's, 100%. Number 2.
Nobody. Yep. Anime characters.
Yep.
Oh.
That's adorable.
That has such sad implications, though.
Yeah.
But it's so adorable.
And lastly, say the line, Dahlman. This hand of mine glows with an awesome power.
Yep. Yep.
Zeno loves that one. Right. My first meme. I believe Goku can beat Saitama. Okay, but does it matter?
Brilliant.
Disney Spy Family?
Oh no.
Oh my god, no.
No.
Oh my god, no.
Yep. Number 3, Rimuru Tempest and Tanya Digurachaft. That time I got reincarnated in a world without the Geneva Convention.
Oh no.
That's good. I like that one. Yeah,
the Xeno and Laws just recently made me watch Tanya, and oh man, it's so good.
You still have the movie to watch.
Yeah. Right, so I've got 2 video memes coming up. So first one.
Get set. Slither! And they're off! Number 6 Snelly rockets out of the starting blocks, leaving the other 2 competitors in the dust.
Go, Snelly! You got it, baby!
What are you doing, Gary? The race has started! You let Snelly take the lead! Let's go, Gary! Start moving! You're blowing everything we trained for! Blowing it!
It's okay, Rocky. You go when you feel like it.
Gary! I'm Get the anchors out of your pants right now! Don't give me that look! I said now, mister! Get going, Gary! Go, 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 go!
So obviously this is the whole Mappa overworks their employees thing. I love the Studio Pierrot one though. That was
Yeah.
Right, my other video meme.
You ever look at someone and wonder what is going on inside their head.
my head all the time.
Oh, brilliant.
And my final
A
meme.
lot of people.
If I sacrifice all my friends and family, I get a cool kingdom. Think, Guts, think.
Oh, fuck. Oh, my God, man. Oh.
Right. Should we move on to Thaylien?
Yes, please.
Oh my God.
Fair in a natural
I love
habitat.
that. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. I love it.
Plush toy.
I want one.
Oh dear.
Manga, anime, manga, anime, manga, anime. I love the Japanese.
Wow.
Well, that was easy. Who am I fighting next? Another easy opponent, probably. What's up, Doc? Get away from me!
I don't get it. I don't get
Goku
it.
could not beat Bugs Bunny
Why?
because Bugs Bunny operates on actual cartoon logic.
Oh, that's a fair point.
Right.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, you got a video meme? Yep.
Oh, brilliant. Love it.
Yep.
Bowser with the crown to become Bowsette. Ash steals it to make Pikachu into Lum.
Oh, my
Oh,
fucking God.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
my fucking God.
Yeah.
Pika.
Oh, okay.
Right, and the last one is also a video meme.
Yes! 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 No! No! No!
Oh, my God, no. Oh, God, Thaylien. Right, before we do my first meme, just want to highlight, not safe for work. You may want to take a moment to...
Oh, let me just
not
click
have
on it
this
now
in your
before everyone
living
has a chance to leave. No.
Yeah, go on, my first one.
All right.
Those breasts are my gateway to resurrection. Salty Jesus. It's nice.
That's not really that well. I guess it's a little NSFW, I suppose.
A little bit.
Right. Number 2. Alien invasion in the US. Alien invasion in Japan. I used the warp device on my ship and accidentally teleported into your bathtub.
Yep.
Good old Japan.
This is why we always hear about the US getting invaded compared to the Japanese.
It's technically not Friday, but regardless, wake up, babe. It's Free Rent Friday.
It is.
See, I'm more excited about Unluck on Sunday. I don't know.
Wait, what number? Yep.
Yeah,
you
we're
can
still
give
getting
this
it.
kind of
Stole
thing
it.
to guys, and they will be thrilled. Yep.
You're the
I
one that
almost-
stole it from me.
I almost
fuck
stole
you.
it, but I didn't.
Right.
So his next one is
Mine-
also spicy. Super
Yep,
spicy.
it's also spicy. Super spicy.
Oh my
Well,
god. Oh
And then my last
my
meme.
god.
I saw this.
Oh my
I didn't
God,
want to
that
use it in
ad.
case of copyright, but you just went right ahead.
Well, I just assumed one of you two were just going to put something else with like music on it and get us copyright anyway.
Well, I did a
thought,
SpongeBob
fuck it,
one,
I'll
so
do it.
I did SpongeBob, so that takes care of that. You're good. You're fine. Wow, that's incredible.
I love that one. I fucking love that one.
Oh,
I'm
Right.
not sure which is better, that one or my second video meme.
Which one was your second one?
I yeah. What goes on your mind?
Yeah. Right. Okay, so that is it for this week's episode. Thanks very much for watching / listening. I hope you all enjoyed yourself. Let us know of any like urban fantasy shows, because I think I really like urban fantasy shows after
yes.
Corona. Let us know of any urban fantasy shows that we didn't talk about, or ones that like kind of fly under the radar. And yeah, that's it for this week. So time's the bottoms up and Kanpai!
Kanpai!
I had a secondary glass of water just in case.